Welcome to Chisel Compass, where deep-rooted wisdom meets the crossroads of faith, entrepreneurship, and mindset. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and he's Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor. And we're here to help you refine your vision and navigate life's toughest challenges with purpose-driven strategies and real-world insights. Each episode, we're going to dive into faith-driven leadership, business growth, personal development, and the mindset shifts that drive lasting success. Now, whether you're building your business, enhancing your leadership skills, or pursuing personal growth, this podcast equips you with the tools and perspectives you need to lead with conviction and live with impact. This isn't just about where you're going, it's how you get there. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Chisel and Compass. Welcome back to another edition of Chisel and Compass. I'm one of your hosts. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and he is
the Mindset Doctor, Dr. Justin Moseley.
And we're glad that you're here. It's been a few weeks since we've released an episode, so thank you for sticking around and tuning in. Justin and I was actually unrelated to the fact that we were recording today. I was in YouTube looking at some other stuff, some data. And I was looking at the download data for Chisel Compass, just the channel, and we're doing pretty good. I think as of today, I mean, this is the 10th episode. We've got almost 3,000 views collectively of all the episodes. So, I mean, that's not groundbreaking or it's not going to set the world on fire.
Yeah,
but
brand new show, brand new channel.
Brand new show, brand new channel, no advertising, no marketing behind this. It's just two dudes talking about the intersection of faith, business, and mindset. Well, today, we've chosen to talk a little bit about our business backstories, because if we're going to talk about faith, we're going to talk about mindset, and we're going to talk about business, I think it's important that the audience understands who is the real Jason Duncan, who is the Mindset Doctor, what gives us the right to have any kind of conversations in a public forum about business. Do we have the ability to talk about it? Because I don't want to listen to people tell me to do stuff who've never done it. So let's talk about that. So let's start with you. So you are Dr. Justin Moseley. Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about how you became the Dr. Justin Moseley and what your business is.
Yeah. And I'm a chiropractor by trade, and my wife's a chiropractor as well. We own a clinic in Hendersonville, Tennessee, so outside of Nashville here. And my business story started back when I was younger. So I watched my dad, who was an entrepreneur, and I got to go to work with him over the summers, and just seeing him run his business. He owns a video production company. So even being young, I got to go to like Fanfare back in the day, which now is CMA Fest. So he had a country music show, and he would interview different country music artists. I remember getting to meet like Keith Urban and Toby Keith, and like being there, just seeing how cool it was being around them, but seeing him run a business. And I think that early on sparked the entrepreneurial journey in me. Like one day I want to own my own business. So even being around that, I thought I was going to go into video production. I even went to college to do that, thinking that I was going to own my own business. So since I was young, it was kind of ingrained in me. And even being young, I started different businesses, like mowing lawns, washing cars, like doing different things, because I just loved that entrepreneurial spirit. And then got to college, and I was a personal trainer while I was in college, but I was going to school to do video production, but I became a personal trainer, liked helping people that way. And then my roommate at the time was going to chiropractic school. He started telling me about chiropractic, and I was dealing with some headaches, sleep issues that chiropractic actually helped me with. And I was like, man, chiropractic is a way I can just continue helping people, but also get to be an entrepreneur and start my own business. So shifted gears. And I was on a podcast earlier today, and I was thinking about this because at that time, being in school for video production, I had no science classes, no chemistry, definitely not organic chemistry and all those things. And I was happy about that. I was like, I'm not going to take any science classes. And then I switched to a pre-med major, which was all science, and had to take organic chemistry, which is like the dream killer. That's the course that weeds people out. But it was worth it to jump through the hoops to be able to get the degree, in this case, to start the business. But went from there, started, did my graduate school down in Atlanta, met my wife. We opened a practice together, and which is a whole other episode that we could do on working with your spouse. But it's been great, man. We we started our business too, and now multiple businesses on two principles. One, that Jesus didn't come to be served, he came to serve. So if we just have the heart of Jesus and we go out and we serve people, that's what it's all about. And then the second one is also on service. It's the Zig Ziglar quote. You can get anything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So really, that's what we built the businesses on. If we go out in there and we just serve people, we're going to be blessed by it. And that's how we kind of got started with our business, man.
So the business, what year did you guys start Music City Health?
So 2012.
Music City Health Center, right?
Yeah, Music City Health Center. We just celebrated 13 years.
Congratulations, man. Most businesses don't make it a year or 5 or 10, and you've done it. You've done it. So
it's been a journey.
So you and you and your wife met in medical school, chiropractic school, ready to become chiropractors together, and end up hitting it off and starting a business. What was it like when you first started out? Because a lot of people in your profession, whether it's physician, MDs, or chiropractors, or even CPAs or lawyers, they're really good at the craft, but they're really crappy at the entrepreneurial business side of things. So what was it like for you guys?
Yeah. And I think in our profession, a lot of people do suck on the business side, and because we're not taught the business side in school. With a lot of professions, they're not. You just talk about how to be the technician, but definitely for us, and we knew that early on. So I sought out mentorship, even while we were in school. Like, we were using our weekends to go visit other clinics and learn from other doctors. Like, how do you run a successful business? And even right out of school, we did some internships with different offices, and offices that were ran by a husband and wife too. So we could learn from, okay, what are their dynamics? How do they work together? How do they complement each other's strengths? Because working with your spouse is not the easiest thing. We have a lot of friends that are both chiropractors, the husband and wife. They can't even practice together. They had to open 2 separate practices because they just didn't vibe. But we learned early on, like, okay, I've got different strengths than she has. I can honor her strengths. She honors mine. We kind of stay in our own lane. But what helped us, though, was that early mentorship, like really seeking advice from others before we were ready. Too many people, they start their business, they get in there and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need advice. I need coaching. But we did that before we even opened our doors, which led to some quick success because we put in the work beforehand, learning from other people.
What was the worst year you had in business? What was that like, and what happened?
Good question. I mean, ups and downs. I think one of the hardest part is just staff in general, like just people, and like having to let people go. Like we had to fire someone who we tried to do it the best we could and just be amicable, but then they wanted to talk bad about us and slander us and do different things. And it's like, man, that's the things. It's the personal stuff that hurts the most. I think that's the hardest part. It's just dealing with things because we care, because we have the heart for people and for things like that's been a rough season of going through things like that and losing other key employees, even though like other people going on to do great things that, hey, we want to bless you and we're happy for you. But man, it leaves a hole in the business. So like now we got to find the right person. As you know, I know you coach on this stuff, finding the right people that are A players that are on the right seat of the bus too. So that's been a challenge, but that's been a fun thing for me too. It's like figuring out the business pieces and learning from people like you, and then the stuff that you teach. And like, I enjoy figuring out the business side of things, but I think too many people don't give themselves the space to work on the business because they're too busy working in the business.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, you have stepped away from working in the business. You don't do, as far as I understand, any of the adjustments. You're not meeting with clients or patients. You've moved beyond being the actual chiropractor in the room, cracking people's backs. So what happened and how did you make that transition?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those aha moments early on. So we were kind of the mixture. We were very good technicians just working in the business, but reading books like the E-Myth and just different business books. We're like, man, we've got to know the business side too. So we're trying to learn it all, but still do it all. But then I got to a point where I blew my shoulder out. And being a chiropractor, I'm adjusting. My shoulder's going out the back. I'm like popping my shoulder back in and I keep adjusting because the business was designed to run around me and my wife. And then as I was going through that season of my shoulder, my wife, who is like the healthiest person I know, she gets sick for 10 days and she would never get sick. And all of a sudden she gets sick for 10 days. I'm dealing with a shoulder issue. And I had this aha moment of, man, this could all just go away. Like if something happens to me or my wife, this whole business can go away. So that's when I had the realization early on, I've got to design the business that can run without me. They can run without my wife. And we kind of started putting the right key players into position to design it to run without us.
Yeah. And how long ago did you make that decision?
That started 2015 into 2016. I was making that transition.
So almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so today, I think you're acting as what, CEO of the clinic? Is that right?
Yeah. So there was a period like I was completely out doing my own thing. My wife was kind of running the CEO seat, and then she realized that's not her strength. So I came back in kind of fractional CEO, and then kind of coming full circle too, kind of the side of what I've done. Other businesses became speaking, coaching, putting out content as you do as well. And I'm kind of bringing that back in, like all the things I've used to build my personal brand. I'm kind of using my influence to help on the content side for our clinic. So doing kind of fractional CEO, but then content that helps drive leads for the clinic.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest, most impactful business lesson that you've learned in the course of the last, 13 years of running the clinic? I mean, it sounds like you were only in the clinic for about 3 years, actually physically adjusted people. And then the last decade, you've not been in the clinic. So what's the biggest business lesson you've learned during that time?
That's a tough one. So the biggest one I think is for everyone, like get help and get help early. Like you don't know it all, and that's where coaches come in. And I call it writing a check to go faster. If there's somebody who can get you from point A to point B faster, write them the check, get the coaching, because us having coaching early on really helped us kind of break through some plateaus where a lot of other people around us stalled out in their business. So I think having the self-awareness enough to know like, hey, I can't do this on my own. I need help. I need coaching was huge. And then one of the big lessons I remember early on, we were first hiring people and we were trying to hold them to a certain standard. It's like, man, why don't they get it? Why don't they care as much as we do? And a mentor told us like, nobody's going to care as much as you do about your business. And it's great when you get the right A players, they do care. But the reality is, it's like nobody cares about your business as much as you do. So when we understood that, we realized, oh, they're never going to care as much as we do, but we can train them up and have them be invested in the business. But it's never going to be at the level that we care about our patients, nobody understands from the business owner's point of view too, of the real stuff that goes on behind the scenes. From just overhead to taxes to random pieces of mail that you get, spam mail that you get, that people trying to extort money from you. Like there's all kinds of stuff as a business owner that happens behind the scenes. People just don't understand.
And I think that's probably the lesson and why we wanted to have this episode today on Chisel and Compass is we wanted to let the audience who's listening to understand we've learned things as entrepreneurs that the average person doesn't know. And one of the things you just talked about is one of those deals is that employees, no matter how good they are, no matter how loyal they are, their connection is not the same as our connection to that business. And it never will be. They could be amazing employees and they could be ride or die employees. But really, when it comes down to it, they will bolt if they have to. It's about self-preservation. And if there's no attachment back to that business where there's financial repercussions or any other repercussions, they'll throw the business away. It's like, I'm out, I'm done. Right. And I have a very specific instance. I haven't even told you that, we're good friends. We meet all the time and something just happened in the last 72 hours that I didn't even tell you about this morning because we were busy talking about other things. But like an employee, I'm not going to get into the details, but an employee whom I trusted implicitly and who I thought would be with me forever, ended up lying on about me, involved in a lawsuit that's going on in the background. And I read this and I'm like, and put it in front of the court, not just said it in an email. Right. Like this is on a legal document. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah. And this is someone that I would have trusted with my kids. Wow. Like of course my kids are older now, but I would have said, yeah, whatever. I'd give them the key to my house. Yeah. I'd give them this person actually had access to my bank account and could do anything. And I had that level of trust. But once they get removed from the business, they don't have the same thing. So as we sit here as co-hosts of this podcast, and we're talking about business, we're talking about faith, we're talking about mindset, we're talking about business from a place of experience, not from a place of theory, not from a place of we read it in a book, not even from a place we went and got to college and got a degree in business. We went to the school of hard knocks as business owners and have had to hire and fire people and deal with bank issues, and we had to deal with lawsuits. And we're mentioning this only because we want you to have the context that this is our backstory.
Yeah, definitely earned our stripes. That's for sure. And that's important to know too, because now we live in a day where anybody can get on the internet and say, I'm a life coach, but they have no life experience. You got 20-year-olds saying I'm a life coach and trying to sign clients up. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You got to get in the game and learn and have to hire attorneys and deal with stuff like that to realize, man, this is business. Like, this is the real stuff here.
That is definitely true.
Yeah. So let's hear about your backstory. I know it, but it's a cool journey that you have from your non-entrepreneur days to entrepreneur days.
Yeah. So my backstory is I started out in pastoral ministry and spent about a little over a decade working in pastoral ministry, and got totally burned out and sick of doing that, and went back to school and got a master's in education and became a school teacher. And I thought that would be where I'd be for the rest of my life. I'd be just teaching kids. I loved it. It was so much fun, so fulfilling, but so financially unfulfilling. It was just, my wife had to go to work full time because she had stayed home with the kids until I started teaching. And then she had to go to work because we couldn't live off of a teacher salary with, a family of 4 living here in the Nashville area. So I started teaching school, loved it, thought I'd be doing that forever, until I got the news from my principal that said, Jason, your contract's not going to be renewed for the following school year. And I was shocked. He said, well, here's the deal. He goes, we've got to cut 2 teaching positions. And, you're the last guy hired, you don't have tenure. You're an excellent teacher. You're the number 1 teacher in the county in social studies and history. Like, we love you, but this is the decision we have to make. And I was left devastated. And if I took that and looked at that just by itself, I would say, God, where are you in this? Like, this is insane. This is a terrible, terrible day. And it was a terrible day. And there was a lot of fear and trepidation around that. But as it turns out, it led me to become an entrepreneur. Now, I didn't choose that immediately, but ultimately I made the choice within a couple of short months. I made the decision to go all in on business. And here's kind of the story.
Were you looking for other teaching jobs at that point, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought, okay, well, I'll go teach somewhere else, but nobody was hiring. I couldn't get a job anywhere. Now, I suppose if I'd applied in another state, I might have been able to do that. Right. But in the Middle Tennessee area, private and public schools, I applied in every county, every district, every private, every public school, nothing. There was not a position available. It didn't exist. And so it was like God was trying to tell me something. I obviously don't believe that He orchestrated it, but certainly He can use it to His own benefit and to His own glory and to my benefit. So I ultimately decided to start a business, and I told my wife, I said, hey, baby, listen, my last paycheck from the county is going to be on August the 15th. So today's August the 20th, right? So we're recording this on August the 20th. Yeah. So that was in 2011. So that's 14. Is that 14 years ago? Am I doing the math right? Yeah. So 14 years ago. And I said, my last paycheck will be on August the 15th. If I don't get a deal, then I'll go get a real job somewhere. I'll work at Lowe's, or I'll get a job at Starbucks. I'll do whatever it takes just to bring in some money to the family. Yeah. And that was the agreement. On August the 12th, so 3 days before that self-imposed deadline, I rode the elevator up to the 3rd floor of a regional hospital and made the pitch of a lifetime to 3 hospital executives to retrofit all of the lights in their hospital to LED lighting. It was going to save them like $250,000 a year. And as I'm making this pitch, the main guy I'm pitching to, he stops me about 2/3 of the way through my pitch, and he says, let me ask you a question. I said, okay. He goes, has anybody ever told you no? And I said, well, no. or what I didn't tell him, he's the first person I've ever
That's
asked.
right. So I haven't had a no yet.
so he said, has anybody ever told you no? And I said, well, no, they haven't. He goes, well, why wouldn't I do this? And I said, I don't know. Why wouldn't you do it? And then he turned and he looked down the table at the CFO of the hospital. And he said, do you trust these guys? Because here we are, we're just two guys pitching this project. We know enough about what we're doing to make it look like we know what we're doing, but there's obviously some rough edges here. And he says, you trust these guys? And the CFO looks at us and goes, yeah, I trust them. And then he looked, and then the main guy looked at me, and then he looked back at the CFO. He said, write the man a check.
Wow.
And that first check was only $18,000, but that was over almost half of my annual income as a teacher at that point. So I walked home with an $18,000 check, and I thought, this is amazing.
Wow.
Now that turned into a $2.3 million project. That over the course of the next 3 years, and it really just catapulted my life into entrepreneurship. And that's really when I became a true entrepreneur, is when that started happening. It's like, okay, this is going to work. And I ran that business as CEO and president for up until 2020. And then I stepped away from daily operations and turned daily operations over to another company who was, at the time, was interested in buying, and we had a contract for them to buy the company. And there's a whole nother story behind that, but I'm gonna stop and pause and do a little insert. In 2018, we passed $1 million in EBITDA, and we were like, that was the pinnacle. We never did any better than that ever before or since. And I told my business coach, I said, hey, BJ, I said, I want to sell the company because I don't like this business. It's not that I don't like the people. I just don't enjoy this industry. I'd like to do something different. And he said, well, you can't sell it. And I said, what do you mean I can't sell it? He said, well, the reason you want out is the same reason no one will want in.
Right.
And what I learned through that, even though I didn't agree with him at first, what I learned through that is he was 100% right, is that because I was the hub and that everything came through me, my business was worthless. Even at $1 million in net profit annually, it was not worth anything. Now, that's not technically true. It's worth something. Yeah. It just wasn't worth enough to walk away from.
Right.
So that's when I started looking for a way out. How do I get out without, because I can't sell it? How do I do it? And that's when I started working on plans to transition ownership to employees. And then that changed. COVID kind of introduced a whole nother, set of problems and circumstances because we were working in hospitals across the country. So I ultimately made the decision to transition ownership to a third party who liked what we had going on, and they wanted to take over. And that story ended terribly, but that's how I started transitioning out of, I guess, pure entrepreneurship and business ownership and daily operations as a CEO into coaching. Because what people were asking me when I was no longer involved in the daily operations, hey, Jason, did you sell the business? No. And well, you're not there. You don't ever go in the office. What are you doing? And I said, well, I exited, but without exiting. And that's how that phrase started. And I ultimately wrote a book called Exit Without Exiting. And that led me to start coaching people on exits, coaching people on how to exit without exiting. Ultimately, I started the Exeter Club Mastermind. And now I work with entrepreneurs literally all over the country, showing them how to move from owner operator to owner manager to owner investor, where they can exit at the highest multiple possible. And I got a team of 5 other coaches that work with me, and that's all we do is we help entrepreneurs build, scale, and grow their businesses in a way that is not owner dependent.
I love it. So now, curious your feedback on, since you've worked with so many businesses, because one thing we have in common is kind of that self-imposed deadline, like you gave yourself. And there's an analogy. I heard the story from Tony Robbins years ago. I don't remember who it was, but talked about the guys in the ship. They were going to take this island, and the general said, we're going to burn the ships because we're not coming back. We've given ourselves no exit. We're going to burn the ships. We're going to get off, and we're going to take this island. So there was no plan B. So for me and my wife, it was, hey, we didn't take any money to start our business. Like day one, it's like, we got to start making money. We got to start helping people. It's sink or swim. And same thing for you. It's like, I've got an imposed deadline and I've got to make this happen. How important is it for business owners to give themselves some type of deadline to actually make things happen?
I've got mixed emotions about this because I've seen it work both ways. I read books and have mentors and people who say that putting deadlines on things is the key to making reality.
Mhm.
And then I read books and I hear other people say that, well, if you put a deadline on it, you're setting up a false dynamic that will cause you will self sabotage.
Hmm.
And I used to disagree with that, and I only agree with the deadline. But I guess the older I get, and the more I see businesses, and the more entrepreneurs I work with, I'm leaning more towards the other side. Honestly, I'm
Really?
leaning
Yeah.
more towards set definite promises and goals that targets that you want to hit,
Yeah.
and general timelines is like okay. But if you put a hard deadline and then you don't hit it, the
Mm.
demoralization of that
Right.
inability to hit that deadline can really rock you. And
Yeah.
I've got a personal experience with that because I just turned 50 this year and I had a couple of financial goals that I wanted to hit by the time I turned 50. And I started working on these 3 years ago. So it was a long time. I gave myself a long horizon to get there. And guess what? I didn't hit them. I
Yeah.
did not hit the target that I'd set for myself and the goals that I'd set. But I was much further than I would have been had I not made those goals.
Right.
I will grant that.
Yeah.
But the fact that I said I want to do it by the time I turn 50, I'm mentally strong enough because you and I, we work together on mindset. We talk about that all the time. I'm mentally strong enough to know that that wouldn't demoralize me. But I got to admit, it sucked a little bit. And I
Mhm.
second guessed myself a lot. And that
Right.
was months ago. And now I'm on the other side of turning 50. I'm like, well, I still can do it. And I still think I can do those goals. And I think it's probably going to be next year, but I'm not going to say I want it to be by March 3rd of 2026.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm mixed. I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't come down hard either side of that argument. I
Yeah.
would say, look, if you want to set a goal, that's fine. You want to set a deadline, that's fine. But if you also want to set a goal without a deadline, I'm cool with that too. But don't just set this ethereal, like way out in the future. One day no, that's not what I'm
Right.
talking about. It's got to be more concrete.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I could see it both ways too. Because I remember when you shared those goals with me, because we were working through like different, going through the Think and Grow Rich workbook, and like we are meeting, and like, okay, here's some goals. But so the positive side, I did see what that did to you. You got focused. You even like your workouts, like you got disciplined in certain areas
Yep.
that may not have been if it wasn't on your radar to actually make it a goal. So there were definitely changes you made by having that. But then also, I do see that on the other side too. A lot of people set themselves up for failure with too much constraints in their deadlines, and they constantly don't hit it. And then they get so demoralized. They're like, why am I even doing this anymore? And they go the opposite direction. They get lazier and they procrastinate on things.
Well, Chisel and Compass is a podcast that we designed to talk about the intersection of faith, business, and mindset. And the idea of Chisel and Compass, the name is that we want to chisel away everything that's not real, that's not who we are, that is not reality. And then the compass is pointing us towards true north. So as you continue to listen to this show with Justin and me talking about things, we're going to talk sometimes heavily about faith. The last couple of episodes were really faith-based and faith-oriented. Other times we're going to talk just business, pure business, but you're never going to extract from us and subtract the idea that we do follow Jesus. And this is the undercurrent of who we are and the foundation of everything that we stand for and believe. And then we're going to talk a lot about mindset. And as a matter of fact, our next episode, we're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to talk about what we say and how that forms our reality. And so hopefully, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, whoever you are, you'll tune in to the next episode. But today's episode was just about giving you our backstories, let you look a little bit behind the curtain to know who the mindset doctor is and who the real Jason Duncan is. So hopefully you now know. And if you got questions about that, you can reach out to me on Instagram. Just send me a DM at the real Jason Duncan. I'll answer every one of those. I'm pretty active on Instagram. And Justin, how would people reach out and ask you questions?
Yep, same for me. Instagram's the best, most active on there at Dr. Justin Moseley.
All right. And do you spell doctor or no?
Yep, just Dr. Justin Moseley, Moseley.
All right. Well, there you go. That's another episode for Chisel and Compass. Thanks for tuning in. I am the real Jason Duncan.
Dr. Justin Moseley.
And remember, Jesus is King. We'll see you next time. That's a wrap on Chisel and Compass for today. For show notes, resources, and more, hit up chiselandcompass.com and follow us on social media. You can find me at The Real Jason Duncan, and you can find Justin at Dr. Justin Moseley. Until next time, keep your chisel sharp, your compass true, and never stop building what matters. This is Chisel and Compass.